This is video 7 of the Religion 1313 Ethics videos. This one talks about evaluating information. All information from whatever sources needs to be evaluated by you before you actually use it in your paper. You evaluate information every day from television, radio, internet, newspapers, magazines, and books. You just subconsciously do it sometimes. In finding information for a paper or a project or report, you must evaluate the information for accuracy and currency, and most of the information that's found in books, magazines, and newspapers have already been evaluated, so you don't really need to be concerned as much about accuracy. Most books and most magazines have what's called an editor, whose job it is to make sure that everything is right and correct in a book or a magazine article before it's published. But on the internet, there is nobody doing evaluation of web pages. So it's critical that you evaluate any web pages that you use in doing research. There is no one evaluating material on the internet like there is in the print world. Material found on the internet can range from superb quality information to very biased or false information. So since the quality of what you find on the internet can range from very good to very bad, you need to come up with some criteria to use to evaluate the web pages that you find by doing searches. So now if we look on the screen here, we have what's called the CRAPS method of evaluating a website. So each one of those letters in the word CRAPS stands for a method of evaluation. So C is currency, R is relevance, A is author, and there's another A for accuracy, and then purpose and sources. So we're going to briefly talk about these different evaluation criteria. So the first one is currency. The timeliness of the information. Is the information that you're seeing on the web page current? In some subjects, how current the web page is not as important as in others, but a current web page is always a good thing to look at. So we identify whether or not a web page is current by looking at what's called a copyright date. Copyright date usually appears at the bottom of a web page. So this example here, we're going to click on Bank of America. This is the website for the Bank of America. Is this information on this page current? Well, let's go down to the bottom of the web page. And at the very, very bottom, right here, it says Copyright 2019 Bank of America Corporation. So that's an indication that this web page is up to date. Other web pages, like this one, this is a Wikipedia page, does not give you a copyright date. So we go down to the bottom of this page, and this says this page was last edited on 19th of September 2019. So this is how some web pages indicate how up to date they are. They give you the date it was last updated or last edited. Some web pages do not tell you when the page was last updated at all. So this is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We go down here to the bottom looking for the copyright date, and we don't find it. We also look for a date last updated, and we also don't find it. So this illustrates that it can be hard to determine how up to date a web page is. The second criteria is relevance. The importance of the information for your needs is what relevance is all about. So one of the things you have to look at under relevance is the content of the web page written for the audience, for your audience. So if your audience is your teacher or college students, you need to make sure that where you got your information from is from a web page that is for adults. An example here is this one right here. This website, NASA Kids Club. Okay, it has information pertaining to what NASA does, but it's written for children, and so it might not be appropriate for your needs. The third criteria is author or authority. The source of the information. Who is the one that wrote the information on the web page? This is perhaps the most important of all the criteria. You have to somehow determine who wrote the web page. Sometimes it's by an individual, and sometimes it's by an organization. And some web pages tell you right out who is the author. It just says by so-and-so. Other web pages, it's really hard to find out who the author is. And so some web pages, you have to question the information that's there because you don't know who the author is, or the author is perhaps somebody that's not an authority on the topic that the web page is about. So here are some tips or ideas when evaluating the author of a web page. You need to look for the author's name anywhere you can find it. You need to see if there's a link to an organization, and a lot of times that information is at the bottom. If the author is an organization, you can look for a link on the web page that says about, or about this site, or about us. When you click on that link, oftentimes you will be able to find out more information about who's responsible for the web page. So for example, here, this CDC smoking and tobacco use. If we go down to the bottom of this page, there is a link that says about CDC. And so if you click on that link, you can find some information about the organization responsible for the content of this page. Accuracy, the reliability, truthfulness, and correctness of the content. So a lot of times the information that you see on a web page is just plainly not correct. For example, here, this web page is called the Aluminum Foil Deflector Beanie, an effective low-cost solution to combating mind control. So this webpage claims that there are people or aliens out there that are controlling your mind, and to prevent it, you have to make this aluminum foil deflector beanie. Now, this is kind of hard to believe. This is an example of a web page that is, the content is more than likely totally false. Purpose of the web page. So why did the author write this web page? There could be many different reasons. One of them is it could be to provide reliable information. A lot of websites are trying to do that. Some websites, however, are trying to sell you something. And when they're trying to sell you something, maybe the information might not be totally accurate. They might be trying to convince you of something. There's a lot of websites that are trying to do that. And sometimes what they're trying to convince you of is not true. Or they might be just trying to entertain you. And there's a lot of web pages where the information may be factual, but it's biased, and so they may not be giving you the whole story or something like that. So that's purpose. Last of all is sources. Does the author of the web page indicate where they found their information? Now, one website that does that very well is Wikipedia. When you go to the bottom of an article in Wikipedia, it tells you exactly where every resource that they used came from. And that's a good thing. And there are other websites that do the same thing, but there's a lot of websites that don't give you any hint of where they got their information from. This is the end of video 7, and this is the end of the videos for the Religion 1313 Ethics class.